Things are not going good for Russia at the moment. Vladimir Putin announced a military mobilization in response to the loss of certain seized regions in Ukraine, which it occupied.
Министерства обороны и Генерального штаба о проведении в Российской Федерации частичной мобилизации.
And this has caused the population, particularly men, to flee towards neighboring countries. Russian men are destroying government property, and sometimes protests pop up all over Russia because some people do not want any involvement in the war in Ukraine due to the difficulties the Russian army is now experiencing there. On February 24th, the Russian President Vladimir Putin declared Russia's special military operation in Ukraine, where he claimed that the operation was meant to halt NATO's expansion, achieve demilitarization, and denazification of Ukraine. But many academics and analysts claim that Putin just intended to overthrow Zelensky and the Kiev government in order to install a pro-Russian dictatorship. The Russian army invaded Ukraine, and the population was roused by a barrage of explosions in their cities and towns. Throughout the country, civilian and military infrastructure was destroyed. The US president and the government of the United States offered to evacuate President Zelensky, but Zelensky refused by making one of the most memorable remarks in existence. "The fight is here. I need ammunition, not a ride." It is worth noting that US General Milley projected that Kiev would fall within 72 hours. But after a month of battle around the capital, Kiev, and neighboring cities and villages, the Russians withdrew their forces from Ukraine, leaving death and ruin in their wake and marking the Ukrainian army's first victory. However, Putin's story did not end there. He redeployed those Russian forces in Ukraine's east and south, where the combat was becoming more and more fierce. Fast forward to September, the Ukrainian army began successfully liberating some of the occupied territories in Kharkiv, Luhansk, and Kherson regions. This alarmed Vladimir Putin, who then announced a partial mobilization in which he claimed that more troops were required to secure Ukrainian territories that had been seized by the Russian forces. The manner in which the Ukrainian army is reclaiming the occupied territories shows they are becoming more successful in battlefield than Russian forces. Let's visualize why this is the case. The Russians were not ready to fight a war like this. The Russians expected to be welcomed with flowers and hugs and believed that the special military operation would end swiftly. Instead, they encountered Molotov cocktails, protests, and counteroffensives. Even after the partial military mobilization was announced, over 200,000 men fled Russia, with some even injuring themselves to avoid mobilization. Furthermore, due to the rising number of fatalities on the Russian side, which is already more than 60,000 injured and dead, Russian forces are abandoning their positions in order to save their lives, therefore providing the Ukrainians with an edge in moving forward with the occupation of the territories. Also, NATO member states, United Kingdom, Romania, Canada, and the California National Guard are training modern-day battle techniques to Ukrainian soldiers, enabling them to gain an advantage and battle the Russian army, which still employs Soviet-style warfare tactics. Most importantly, the Ukrainian army is receiving weapons and equipment from NATO member states. So far, they've received armored vehicles, which are more modern, technologically advanced, so as to transport, protect, and minimize casualties of Ukrainian soldiers while they are moving and fighting on the front lines. Also, while the Ukrainian army is equipped with howitzers, NATO allies have provided several long-range howitzers to wreak havoc on Russian lines, at the very least to equal what the Russians have on the battlefield, enabling them to shoot quickly, disperse, and move before Russian forces can fire back. In addition, Ukrainian soldiers are not only utilizing drones to attack, but also to target and steer artillery fire into Russian positions. The Russian army, as they run away and retreat from the front lines, they've been leaving a lot of equipment behind, which the Ukraine armed forces are utilizing to capture ammunition against Russian positions. Although the Ukrainian army has acquired this equipment, as well as others not discussed in this video, it is vital to highlight that the high mobility artillery rocket system is the most effective piece of equipment that the Russian army fears the most. The HIMARS make it possible for Ukraine to attack Russian forces and equipment from a greater distance of about 40 to 70 kilometers. Despite its greater mobility, HIMARS can hit and run far more quickly and effectively, as well as efficiently catching the Russians' army by surprise. This has been employed by the Ukrainians to obliterate strategically important locations that are deep within Russian defenses. Most importantly, it appears like Ukraine has the upper hand when it comes to the warfare. However, it is still too early to tell if Ukraine will retain the momentum. This is my first video on YouTube, and if you want to see many videos like this, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment so this channel can grow. Thank you for watching.